It's just going to be a hard edit.
Yeah.
Right. Hello, welcome to the Most Dangerous Podcast. I'm Fraser, and you're James. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm not too bad. It's I mentioned on Friday, so we're recording a bit early this week, aren't we? So
Yes.
It's only been not that long since we last spoke. I've had a week off, and it's been great. And it's probably the best week I could have had off because the weather's been absolutely fantastic. So I've just spent a lot of my time in the garden drinking lots of beer, which has been
nice.
Great. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I've not been really doing anything, to be honest.
it's actually been summer, hasn't it? It's been like proper summer weather. The kids have had the paddling pool out and all that. So yeah, it's been nice.
It's been good, yeah. I'm absolutely sweltering here in the studio, if you can call it that. So yeah, I'm absolutely sweating. I do want to mention as well. So, well, in fact, I've just finished watching the Andy Murray tennis match in the Olympics. The Great Britain just lost to the USA,
Yes.
and it was Andy Murray's last professional game. I don't know if you know this, but Andy Murray was actually. Do you remember the Dunblane incident?
Yes, yeah,
The massacre, I suppose.
Yeah.
So Andy Murray was in the school
Mhm.
when that happened. I don't think he was. Well, he was not actually going to be affected, but I don't think he was one of the kids that was sort of the school children that was in the year groups or whatever. But
he wasn't in the class, but he was definitely in the school.
Yeah, which leads me on to like another tragic story that kind of happened this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that like over these past few weeks, we've been talking about sort of serial killers and murder and stuff like that. So you've probably seen that in Southport there was this awful incident that happened with a stabbing with school children. And I bring it up because it's quite funny that it kind of bookends sort of Andy Murray's career. That that sort of not started it, but he was involved there. And then obviously this has happened, and almost days after it's happened, he's retired. So that sort of stuck out of my mind. I thought that sort of stuck out of my mind. So I thought that was quite funny. Well, not funny, but it kind of the two sort of incidents bookends his career. But that's not what I'm just going to say. What I was going to say is that I don't know how many listeners we have now or how many followers, but you and I just want to sort of express our condolences to all those people and families and everybody that was affected by that, because it's absolutely shocking and absolutely tragic. And I'm sure that you'll sort of join me in sort of wishing them all the best and prayers and thoughts to everybody that's been impacted by that.
Definitely. I mean, we've both got children. I couldn't begin to comprehend what that would be like to lose my children.
Yeah, I mean that's what made me think of it as well. Like my kids, my kids are roughly the same age as some of those that died, and I just wouldn't know I don't know what I'd do. I just don't know. So it's really, really sad, and I don't know what else to say apart from we are thinking about you.
Yeah, you said enough, James. Definitely, well said. So yeah, well, moving on. Sure, you've had a week in the sun.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, if I'm not getting pestered by the kids, but then,
I've had, like I said, we got this proper. It's not a swimming pool. It's a swimming pool you can build up in your garden and fill with water. But
yeah, I've seen it.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Decent size.
Yeah, like you could do it. Like you could have a bit of a swim in it. It's like It's not like a paddling pool. You could perhaps do 3 or 4 strokes to the other side of it.
But the weather's not been consistently nice enough to put it up. And then this week the weather's been really nice, and we're like, should we set up the swimming pool? But it takes like 3,000 fucking liters of water or something.
Yeah, you're not on a water meter, are you?
We're on a water meter. Yeah, I worked out it's like 30 quid or something to fill it up.
Is it? But then if you do it and then you have one day and then it pisses it down for the next 6 weeks, it's like, that's what a waste of 30 quid.
10 days we're going away on holiday for a couple of weeks. So you come back and it's all fucking green. So you've got to... No one's putting the pump on and off and the chlorine in and out. So you then drain it again. And then you go, the weather's quite nice. You might fill it up again. Then you get another swim or 2 in it. I just, I don't know if I can face putting it all up. And also, we buried the rabbit under where the swimming pool goes. So it probably would be quite good to put the pool up just to compact it a little bit.
Yeah, weigh the corpse down.
Yeah, so that if it reanimates like on Pet Cemetery, it can't go out because there's a big swimming pool on top.
Yeah, that's one reason to do it. I don't know. I don't think swimming pools are really ideal for this country, are they? I think you can get away with a paddling pool. I mean, you'd have an indoor swimming pool, but who can afford one of them apart from Rishi Sunak?
Yeah, but he didn't have Sky growing up, poor soul.
Maybe that's why he's overindulging in his adult life.
I mean, we have got quite an elaborate paddling pool. One of the, it's got big inflatables and all that sort of stuff. So that's been going up.
Well, while we're on it, do you want to do the socials and stuff? Get people emailing in?
Yeah, so, funnily enough, we've had a quiet week, actually. It's mad. Last week, we didn't release a podcast, and we actually had quite a busy week. We had decent listener numbers considering we didn't release a podcast. And then this week, listener numbers have been okay, but the social has been crap.
Right.
I thought there was something wrong with them. I'm not getting any messages or anything. So
maybe it's just my pods.
No. But I did share something. Someone else put a post up about Tillicum. There was a funny picture of him like staring at 3 keepers, wondering which one he was going to eat next.
Oh, right. So someone looked at that. Right, cool.
Yeah, so I shared that episode, and that's got popular again. But maybe it's just the good weather. People not really.
Yeah, that does affect it, I reckon.
On their phones, yeah.
Yeah, nobody's sitting there sort of. Yeah, everyone's out in the sun. Well, hopefully, make the most of it.
So what we need you to do is to share us. Like we keep saying, if you follow us on Facebook, then share us on your page. Just something simple. If you listen to tonight's episode and you go, God, that was a good episode, share it on your Facebook. Say to your pals, listen, why don't you listen to this? It's good. Follow us. Remember, go on a couple of platforms and you can automatically download, subscribe. All these things help us, and inevitably, if we grow bigger, we can give you better content.
That's it.
You won't hear my phone going off in the background, and in about 5 minutes, my family coming through the door, so I'll need to shut that. But yeah, we're on Facebook. We're easy to find. The Most Dangerous Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever we can be, we are there.
Get on there. I was supposed to do some stuff on that, wasn't I? But I never did it. I completely forgot.
Sitting in the garden drinking fucking beer. That's what it is.
That's the problem, yeah. But I was supposed to do it like a few weeks ago, but I just never. It's fine. It's fine. We'll get on it.
Yeah.
Right. So everything. How's your fundraising going for your impossible feat?
Yeah, we've had one sponsor.
Really?
Yeah, one sponsor. But I'm getting my miles up on the bike. I did
good.
12 miles in a day.
That's pretty good. That's kind of like in a day.
In one session, bike ride.
I was going to say, are you sure this is going to take you one day?
There's 2 things that's worrying me. That 12 miles, remember I broke my hand?
Yeah, a while back. Yeah.
Yeah, that where I broke my hand was really starting to hurt after 12 miles on the handlebars.
Oh, right.
And the second thing is I felt my arse was in a bad way the next day from sitting on that seat. So those 2 things are worrying me more than the actual riding the bike.
Yeah. I mean, your arse will hurt.
Yeah.
Because that's the nature of the beast, isn't it?
I know.
You have to take some Sudocrem.
Yeah. Apparently anti-chafing cream, either side of your bollocks. That's the way to go.
Yeah, do you know that happened to me? Like in New York, I was walking around New York. I went to New York like years and years ago. And when you're there, you just walk around everywhere because I wanted to. Because I wanted to see as much as I could because I was only there for a few days. And it's because it was really hot as well. I was walking around in jeans. Maybe it's just an age thing. So I needed some of that cream just to go,
It's horrible. It's awful. You're like absolutely red raw. It was one of the days we were in Florida around Disney. I wore like denim shorts, and again with the hot weather and everything. Gosh, fucking red raw for about 3 days.
Yeah. I was walking like a cowboy.
Yeah. God, these pods are getting better and better. I think we should move on to dangerous news.
Right, okay, no problem. So it's now time for this week's dangerous news. Okay, Fraser, it's my week for dangerous news. Sorry, slim pickings this week, as per usual. And plus, it was Friday last week that we recorded. Now it's Thursday, so obviously that limits the amount of time for dangerous news to develop. So the first one, it's not really dangerous, this one, but it's just perhaps a lesson, maybe. Do you ever get those emails where it says that you've like won, I don't know, $500,000 on a lottery that you've never been part of?
Yeah, just shite.
Yeah. So a Michigan woman this week, she got one of these suspicious emails. She thought it was in a spam folder, and it told her that she'd won $207,000 in a lottery prize. So it's 54-year-old woman, in Macomb County, and she was told. So she got this email from the Michigan Lottery. Obviously, she was a bit wary because these things do happen. I don't know how many Nigerian princes have offered me $5 million, but and you immediately go, "That's this bullshit." What she didn't realise was that the games that she was playing on the Michigan Lottery offered her a second chance in the draw. So you put a quid on or whatever, $1, and then if you lose that one, it goes into a redraw. And she didn't know that by playing certain games online, she was entered into these second chance draws. So she was dead confused when she got this email. She was a bit like, I do go in for this lottery. It's not a random one. It's not like a Nigerian prince. It's not some out of state lottery. But I just don't believe it. So she did a bit of research, and it turns out it was legitimate.
Bloody hell!
And she won $207,000 just because of this second chance lottery thing. So there's a lesson there. So if you do find that you win a lottery by email, maybe, just maybe, it is real.
Yeah, don't fuck it off straight away.
Yeah.
Basically, if it asks you to phone a free phone number, right, it's probably legit. If it asks you to phone a number that starts on 09 to find out if you've won, that's usually the first clue.
And maybe that's a good rule of thumb. If it asks you to send nudes to a Gmail account, it's probably not legit.
Send £100 and a picture of your knob, and we'll send you it. Did you see there was been like one of these memes going around of this guy, just like a Nigerian-looking guy? That's terrible. Can you say that?
An African-looking fella, I suppose.
African chap. Sitting in a room with just stacks and stacks of money with a little sad face, and it's like when no one responds to your emails offering them your money.
yeah, I did see that. Yeah, it's like he's trying to give it away for like 15 years, and he's just got this loads and loads of money. So not really dangerous, but I thought it was a nice story.
Could have been dangerous if she'd have fucked it off.
Yeah, I guess so. So second story. So visitors to a Rhode Island beach found their peaceful day interrupted when massive swarms of dragonflies came in from the water.
What the hell?
There is a video going around which I'll either give to you to share, which is probably more likely, or I'll share on the Facebook page. So beachgoers at Miss Quamikit Beach in Westerly. There was beachgoers there. They all sat around, and then swarms and swarms, waves of dragonflies just flew in off the sea. It's around like 1 p.m. on the day. So dragonfly expert Ginger Brown. It's not his name.
He... Oh no, it's Ginger Wildheart I'm thinking of.
Ginger Brown, that's good, isn't it? Said that the insects normally migrate between the middle of August and mid-September, and they have been known to travel en masse where their bog or swamp habitat dries up. So he said that's entirely possible what we're seeing right now. So,
do you know dragonflies? They're beautiful, and you very rarely see them. So they're quite sort of special when you do see one. It's like, oh look, it's a dragonfly. You don't
really get them in the city, do you? It's like when you go out to sort of you go for a walk or whatever in the wilderness, not the wilderness, out on track or whatever.
But do you know if they can sting or bite or anything, or are they just like big friendly big flies?
They're just harmless. As far as I'm aware, like in this country, definitely. They just look weird, and they're pretty like they're kind of cool. But then if one lands on you, you're a bit like, ugh.
Yeah, it's nice.
Like weird
thing. A leaf.
yeah. And when it sort of whizzes past you, but yeah, they're really, really strange things.
Something that my big sister told me today, or she mentioned to me today. And how long have you been driving?
Not that long. 4 years, 4.5 years. Like that.
So I've been driving 26 years.
Yeah.
And I remember years and years ago when I was the first 5-10 years I was driving, whenever you washed your car, there was shitloads of flies in the front of it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there was a while I had the yellow car, and if I didn't wash it once a week, fucking just black with flies on the front, right?
Mm-hmm.
You never see that anymore.
No, it's a
Is that,
bit of an issue
have we
actually.
killed all the flies?
No, I have read a little bit about this. So there's a lot of councils, they cut their grass. You know, they get these grass verges, don't you, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they cut these grass verges down. It's the same with butterflies. Like, how many butterflies have you seen this year?
No, I know. We were at Chester Zoo at the weekend, and
Yeah.
the butterfly thing, there was a big thing saying that apparently they're all going missing.
Yeah, so a lot of people are getting in this sort of astroturf, artificial grass in their gardens and stuff like that. And, you know, rather than having like flower beds and stuff, they'll just pave it because it's a pain in the arse to like maintain and stuff. So it's purely out of laziness that people are just getting rid of these sort of wildflowers and you know, and paving over their driveway, their grass and stuff like that, because they can't be arsed mowing it. And because of that, it's reducing the amount of insects that particularly are in a city, if you like.
Right.
So that's the reason. Yeah, it's definitely like it's a thing that people and scientists are sort of conscious of, and I think they're a bit concerned about it as well.
Well, we live in one of the big suburban estates, cul-de-sacs, big grassy patches and ponds and stuff. And I noticed a lot of the big grassy patches, whoever, I think it's the council, I suppose, manage the estate.
Yeah.
They have cordoned off bits and grown the big patches of wildflowers and stuff that they're
I think there's a big call for it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, these sort of like big grass areas, like you say, you'll have like rock fields somewhere in a estate. But what councils used to do is just mow them because it looks nicer. And it's sort of, but what's actually nicer is to have all the wildflowers and have it overgrown, because this encourages not just insects and stuff, but also like foraging animals like mice and things, you know. It's just about a big ecosystem then. So you've got the mice that eat the bugs, then you get the owls that eat the mice, and it just generates this whole sort of if you flatten the thing, nothing's going to be there. So there's a bit of an outcry at the moment, particularly for local authorities, just to leave these grassy patches and just let them obviously maintain them. Don't they get really sort of wild, but yeah. What was that? Is that the dog?
The dog knows that they're pulling up. So, well, how very educational we've got tonight.
Yeah. So if you do have a garden or whatever, just consider, don't let it go.
Just a corner that you just leave
flowers and stuff, and it's nice for you as well. So just before I go on, this is all from all stories tonight are from a company, a website called upi.com. I was really scraping the barrel here. I don't know who this website belongs to or what have you, but there we go. All right, ready for the final story then?
Yes, ready, James.
So this is my favourite one, actually. So a New Zealand woman found what appeared to be a headless corpse on the beach that she was walking on with her dog. But when she called the police, it was determined it was actually a life-sized adult toy.
Oh, right.
So Alice Cowdrey said she and her dog Sadie were taking a walk on a Tapue Beach, south of New Plymouth, in the Taranaki region, where the canine led her to something washed up in the sand. She said, "I just sort of froze and felt sick," she told Radio New Zealand. "I could see it was definitely the shape of a torso, face down, and I could tell it was a woman figure. I could see it had fingernails and toes and was really realistic, so it really looked like a human figure." She called the police, and 3 officers responded. And then she said, and then I sort of saw one of the cops nudge it with his foot, and I thought, he's not going to nudge it if it's a body. She said the identity of the object became clear once it was flipped over.
Right.
So you could tell it was a sex doll. She said the dummy was very heavy and it required all 3 officers to drag it back to the patrol vehicle.
Bloody hell. So this was one of like the proper ones, not like the Hellboy inflatable ones. Like,
yeah.
Bloody hell.
I guess and it got me thinking that if you got one of those and you had it for a year and maybe you got one because you were like single and I know it's a bit weird, but maybe that happened. That does happen. And then maybe you got like a partner or something and you started dating and you're thinking, all right, okay, well at some point they're going to come over, I imagine, and what do you do with it then? Like,
I know, how do you dispose of it? You can't
take
take
rid of it.
Take it to the tip.
Yeah, he's like literally get it in the bath with like the hacksaw cutting off limbs so you can put it in a bin bag. So obviously someone's just gone, I don't know what to do with it, I'll just dump it on the beach.
Is this a non-recyclable, mate? Or put it in there?
I'll call the company back and say, can you come and get it? I don't want it anymore. Yeah, so a sex doll, a proper.
So it was headless.
Oh yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Just missing its head. Yeah. Wonder if he just kept the head in a little drawer.
Just whenever he needed it.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah. So that's been this week's Dangerous News.
Thanks very much, James.
Okay, Fraser. So as per the usual format, we take it in turns to tell our little stories when it gets to this point in the podcast. And I understand that, well, I know that it's your week this week. I know, because it's always good when it's your week. So take it away.
Yes, it is. It is my week, and I've just kicked the monitor. Hang on. Yes, it is my week, and I've been kind of looking forward to doing this, and I don't know why. I think one of the things, I don't know how much Britain and the sort of the greater world knows about this character. I don't know if I know him well because my family are from Glasgow, or whether he is really quite famous. But today we're going to talk about a serial killer, simply known as Bible John.
Yeah, I think he is quite widely known.
Mm-hmm.
I think, well, we'll go on to discuss that. Like I mentioned, maybe last week or the week before, there was a massive sort of surge in popularity of sort of serial killers and stuff. I think it started in lockdown when nobody had anything to do, and they were just watching documentaries about people and serial killers and stuff. So I've definitely heard of him. I'm sure. I know for a fact there's a number of documentaries and videos and YouTube channels that have done various sort of investigations into Bible John. But it'd be interesting to see your take on it.
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons there has been a lot of documentaries on him is because he's never been caught. He is still a mystery, so he's one that got away, or so they think. I don't think he actually is, but we'll talk about that at the end.
Okay.
So because obviously we don't really know who he is, I can't tell you his history. I can't tell you where he grew up or anything like that. But from evidence, they believe he was certainly from Glasgow or Greater Glasgow, going by the accent of witnesses that heard him speak. So basically, Bible John, he's known to have murdered. Well, they've connected 3 young women that were murdered between 1968 and 1969. They believe that Bible John was the same character that killed these 3 women. That doesn't mean he didn't kill anymore, but these 3 were obviously connected by similarities to the killing.
What's the limit for it? Like, how many people do you have to kill to be a serial killer? Do you know?
I think it's 3.
Is it 3? And then passed as a serial killer?
I think it's 3. Because I remember when we were doing Mary Ann Cotton, that officially she only actually killed 1 person.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah,
I'm sure when I looked at a list of serial killers, they were all 3 and above. There were none that were just 2.
Yeah.
So I sort of took it as 2's like a double murder or something. Or,
double homicide. Okay.
Double homicide. Yeah. So obviously, like we said, despite an extensive manhunt, Bible John remains one of the most infamous unsolved cases in Scottish criminal history. So let's start with the victims, the murders. That's the main bit, really, isn't it?
I guess so. I suppose they are the most important people, aren't they, in these stories? It should be all about the victims rather than the perpetrator.
Of course.
So yeah, go ahead.
Well, we don't know much about the perpetrator anyway, so
yeah, true.
So the victims were all young brunette women between the ages of 25 to 32, and they all met their fateful end after visiting the Barrowland Ballroom, which was a popular dance hall in Glasgow.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
Yeah,
is it still going? The Barrowlands?
It's still going, yeah. The Barrowlands is basically a concert venue. All the bands love playing the Barrowlands.
Have we been?
We've not been to the Barrowlands, no.
Who
We've been
did we
to
go
one
and
in
see?
Edinburgh.
Is it Edinburgh?
We went to Edinburgh and saw Muse, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been twice to see the Saw Doctors.
Right.
But like bands like Oasis and that, they talk about the Barrowlands, the atmosphere, because it's an old dance hall. It's got a sprung floor, and you got the mental Glaswegian crowd. But many years before it became a concert hall, it was a dance hall. But it was a little bit frowned upon because it was a dance hall that had what they called was grab a granny night for
Yes.
over 25s.
All right, over 25.
Fucking
Yeah.
old, you feel.
Yeah, no,
And
yeah.
apparently a lot of married people went on their own to hook up.
Right,
So
I see. So it's a bit seedy, a bit kind of like go and have a bit of a snog in a dance with some randoms.
That's it. Bit frowned upon. And it wasn't necessarily, I mean, it was the 60s. It wasn't necessarily about, going home with people and stuff. It was just a bit of flirting for some of them. Maybe, like you said, a little kiss, cheeky kiss, and back home to your husband or wife.
Yeah.
So
how do you get that past the other half, though? Like, I'm just going down the Barrowlands tonight, grab a granny. I'll see you in a bit, love.
Yeah. Well, my dad and my Uncle Jerry used to go to a place called the Plantation in Chester.
Oh, yeah.
And my mum and my auntie knew they went there, and they called it Grabby Granny Night.
Oh, really? So it's kind of like, okay. So, if you don't know about it, it can't hurt you.
Yeah. But I think for them, it was just a case of going for a beer, a dance, and just having
look at some lovely ladies.
Yeah. So Bible John's first victim was a lady called Patricia Docker. She was a 25-year-old auxiliary nurse. On February the 23rd, 1968, her naked body was discovered in a garage doorway near her home in the Battlefield area of Glasgow. Patricia had been subjected to a brutal attack, suffering extensive blunt force trauma to her head and face. She was strangled with a ligature, which I looked up is anything that you can strangle someone with.
Oh, really? Was it not a tights?
No, it was possibly a belt. This one, they're not actually sure.
Yeah.
I know why you said that because,
am I remembering that right? Yeah.
Further ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Bear with me. Her clothes, handbag, and watch were missing from the scene, but her handbag was later found in the River Cart, but her clothing was never recovered. So that evening, Patricia had informed her parents that she would be spending the evening at the Majestic Ballroom because she didn't want to tell them she was going to the Barrowlands.
Got you.
And it's obviously, it says when I looked up, it says for reasons unknown because she never actually told anyone why she went to the Barrowlands, but it is believed that she was, she wanted to go there, but she didn't want to tell anyone she was going there. Witnesses did report hearing a woman scream, "Leave me alone," on the night of her murder, but no solid leads emerged from these accounts. Basically, they just said, I heard someone screaming, "Leave me alone." But
I mean, it's Glasgow.
Yeah.
It probably happens a lot.
Do you ever remember the fun you could have watching out of Ruby's window at like 10, 11 o'clock at night?
I remember specifically, I mean, I'm not just saying this about Glasgow, I mean, it happens in all major cities, doesn't it? They're not good places to be if you're out and about on your own, particularly women late at night. But I remember specifically, so your gran lived on like the 24th story or something, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And they had a washroom, didn't they? Like where you basically just put your clothes in. It's like open. It was all sort of chicken wire, but it was open so the air would circulate.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I think we went in there quite sort of late at night.
Sneaking a cigarette, probably.
To have a cig, yeah. And at the back of the building, there isn't really a back, is there? Because there's 4 flats on each floor. So the building where outlooking this sort of like washroom was a big park.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember we were both in there, and then there was just this sort of blood-curdling scream, this woman, and she was just like screaming and screaming and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, shit, like we can't, there's nothing, it could have been anywhere, like, we're talking.
Yeah,
I just remember that very clearly, that happened.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, well, what are we supposed to do? Phone the police and say we've heard someone screaming
in Glasgow.
What can you do? So,
but it's,
I remember that.
It's the way things are, though, because I remember, somewhere around our estate, we woke up to a scream one night, and then you're like, do you go out? What do you do?
Yeah.
You phone the police. And the other one is you go, God, that fucking house alarm's been going off all night. The house could be getting emptied and everyone's going, that fucking house alarm. But No one
It's
really.
like it's like that Peter Kay joke, isn't it? You know, where like the neighbours are just like getting the milk delivered and it's stacking up and stacking up, and the neighbours are looking over, going, "What are they keeping in there? A lion? Bloody hell!" They're in there dead, like.
But then at the same time, you hear stories about there was a scream and someone goes out and then they end up getting stabbed to death or something. And
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing, isn't it? Yeah.
what do you do? But yeah, do you know at Ruby's house? Julie tells a story that she was just doing the same thing, leaning out the window, watching the world go by, and there's little flats across the road,
Yeah, I remember
and
them. Yeah.
she heard this couple having an argument. She'd kicked him out, and he was out in the street shouting up at the window, and they're having verbals and everything. And she shouts something to him. He goes, "Yeah, yeah. Well, your arse is always covered in shite. You never wipe it properly, you dirty bitch."
Okay.
I thought, well, what a fucking comeback, you know. Anyway, let us get to this poor dead lady. A post-mortem revealed that she had not been sexually assaulted, but was menstruating at the time of her death. Her sanitary towel was placed on the floor next to her body. Unfortunately, the lack of evidence and witnesses led to her case quickly going cold.
Yeah.
Now,
So do you reckon he's like tried to and then thought better of it because of, you know, she was going?
possibly, there's a theory to that later on.
Okay.
But I listened to a podcast about Bible John a couple of days ago, and the reason I didn't put this in my notes is I didn't want to just rip it from them.
Yeah.
But apparently, someone found the body or saw the body but didn't want to approach it and thought it was a man, and they phoned the police. This was very early in the morning. They were dog walker.
Yeah. It's always dog walk, isn't it?
Yeah, out fucking nosy and everywhere. And they phoned the police, and the police said it'll just be some homeless guy, right?
Right. Yeah.
They didn't come out, but that morning they told a couple of police that were on patrol, "Oh, listen, see if you're passing that street, just stick your head up there, will you?"
Yeah.
So she actually lay dead for hours before a couple of policemen went up this little side street and found her. How
Yeah.
bad's that?
I guess so. I mean, it's a judgment call, isn't it? I think it's always difficult to.
Yeah.
I think the police are different these days. Well, you'd hope so. Anything like that, they would go and check. But back then, it was kind of like probably just some dude, some drunk or whatever.
Aye. So moving on to the second victim, Jemima MacDonald. So the second victim was Jemima MacDonald, a 31-year-old mother of three.
Oh,
Out at the Barrowlands, though.
yeah.
So on August the 16th, 1969, Jemima decided to spend her evening at the Barrowland Ballroom. Witnesses saw her in the company of a well-dressed, well-spoken man. The pair left the ballroom together around midnight, and Jemima was last seen walking towards her home. When Jemima failed to return home, her sister Margaret O'Brien grew concerned. On August the 17th, so that's the following day obviously,
Yeah.
local children discovered her body in a derelict building.
Bloody hell, children. She's got kids and children discovered her. Outrageous.
Jemima had been raped, extensively beaten, and strangled with her own stockings. Unlike Patricia, Jemima was clothed, although her undergarments were torn. She too was menstruating at the time of her death, and her sanitary towel was placed next to her body.
You're right. That's weird, then, isn't it?
It is a bit weird, isn't it?
So maybe he was disturbed the first time around.
Yeah.
Or something. Because there's a theme, isn't there?
Yeah. Despite multiple witnesses describing the man Jemima had been with, police were unable to identify him. The similarities between Jemima's murder and Patricia's began to suggest a pattern.
Yeah.
So, like you said, I mean, as grim as it is, the sanitary towel and, there's a few sort of, the Barrowland Ballroom as well. There's a couple of similarities there.
Of course.
So the third victim of the three, Helen Puttock. So the third and final known victim was Helen Puttock, a 29-year-old mother, and this was October the 31st, 1969. Her body was found behind a tenement in Scotstoun, which is, again, near... What's interesting is they were all found quite close to their own homes.
Mm.
So as if he'd accompanied them home, but just before they got there, done his
From
deeds.
what I remember from the documentaries that I've seen,
Mhm.
it's like this was a period just when sort of Glasgow was under development after the Second World War,
Mhm.
and a lot of like the areas, they were like slums basically. They were
Yeah,
just there's a lot of like waste ground and things like that, and the idea. I think the local authority had an idea, and that's where they started to build these sort of large tenement blocks and stuff like that. And there was a lot
Mhm.
of this waste ground and stuff, and the derelict buildings, and it wasn't a very nice place to be,
Mhm.
particularly for if you were growing up. Like there's a lot of poverty and things like that.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they were knocking down the old tenement buildings, and like you said, leaving this waste ground, and then they were
Mm-hmm.
building the new age modern tower blocks, and there was a lot
That's
of
it.
change in Glasgow. So there's some pretty rough areas.
Yeah.
As with all big cities, there's these sorts of things. Helen had been subjected to a savage assault, beaten, raped, and strangled with her stockings. Her handbag was missing, and there was a deep bite mark found on her thigh. As with previous victims, Helen was menstruating, and her sanitary towel had been placed in her armpit.
What? What? That's weird.
So he'd put it, like,
Yeah.
lift her arm, put it in her armpit, and put her arm down.
Why?
I don't know. It's not funny, but there's something that it's
Just
so
awful.
absurd that it's like it's
Yeah, I
weird.
don't get it. That's very strange.
Yeah.
But
Um,
there's a common, it's with serial killers, they've got their MO, don't they?
yeah, yeah.
That's what you call it, modus operandi, I think. And there's definitely one here.
Maybe he thought, what if they blow away in the wind or something? So he thought, I'll start putting them
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
onto their armpits.
But then you would have seen the report from the second death and the first one, so that not.
Yeah, true.
So I guess I don't know. Maybe you just didn't read the report. Who knows?
So the night before her murder, Helen and her sister Jean Langford had met two men, both named John, at the Barrowland Ballroom. Now, I read another thing that says a lot of people just used false names, and John was a very common name that guys used at the Barrowlands because they didn't want to be identified. What's your name?
Mhm.
John, Jimmy, or
Yeah,
Joe.
yeah.
So they were both called John. One of these men who quoted Bible verses and criticised the dance hall as a den of iniquity became Helen's companion. Jean described him as tall, slim, well-dressed man with reddish or fair hair. The three of them shared a taxi, during which Helen's companion revealed his disapproval of married women attending the Barrowland.
Right.
Jean exited the taxi first, leaving Helen alone with the man. Helen's body was found the next morning, suggesting she had been murdered shortly after Jean had left the taxi. The ferocity of the attack, combined with the religious overtones in the man's speech, added a new layer of horror to the case.
So yeah, I'm guessing that's where the name Bible John comes from. Then.
Yes, yeah. So there's a few sort of witnesses that have said whenever they've sort of seen him talking to the women and stuff that he was always quoting Bible verses and so on.
Yeah. I did see, you might come onto this, that the police did like an E-fit thing.
Yes.
It's just the most generic E-fit. Like you can imagine, it's just an average person.
Well, it does. I read that was the first ever, what they call like an E-fit done in Scotland.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Bible John was the first time they did the kind of what they call the artists.
Yeah, artist impression.
Artist
apparently it
impression.
caused loads of problems as well because it was so generic. People would be
Everyone.
like, "Oh, that looks like my mate," and his name's John because everyone was called John as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, and they just phone the police and go, "My mate's called John. He looked dead like that guy." And then they just end up with like all these Johns who look exactly the same as he fit.
Well, something they got from the third death, the bite mark on her thigh. They noticed that he had two of his bottom teeth were actually one overlapped the other, and one of the witnesses had mentioned that was something really obvious about him, is he had this bottom tooth that a bit like me actually, overlapped the other, and that was seen in this bite mark on the lady's leg.
Right.
So the police quickly noted the similarities between the murders. All the women had visited the Barrowland Ballroom, all were beaten and strangled, and all were menstruating. Their sanitary towels were found near or on their bodies, and their handbags were missing. Despite these clear patterns, the case was not immediately linked. For the first time in Scottish history, a composite drawing of a murder suspect was widely distributed. So exactly as you've said.
There we go, yeah.
Police also conducted extensive surveillance of the Barrowland Ballroom, but these efforts failed to produce any leads. Another thing is, apparently a lot of people were afraid to come forward as witnesses because they didn't want their partners or other people to know that they'd been to the Barrowlands.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So they're going in there in secret, and now they can't say, yeah, I was there at the time.
That's it. It's like seeing a murder at a strip club or something, isn't it? I wasn't fucking there.
Yeah.
There's that Simpsons episode, isn't there, where he skives school and then witnesses a murder.
Oh, God, I can't remember that one. I might not even seen it. I've not watched it for years.
The wrong guy's going to jail, and Bart's like, I could save him, but I'll get done for skipping school.
Yeah, a bit different, but yeah. I get
it. So we're on to potential suspects. So over the years, several suspects have been considered. John White. One suspect was a man who had been seen arguing with a woman at the Barrowland. He was arrested, but released because he didn't have overlapping front teeth. A detail given by a witness, and obviously seen in the bite mark on the lady's leg. Years later, he came forward and provided a DNA sample, which cleared him as a suspect.
Good.
We've got...
That's horrible as well, though. Like, so despite him being released and never charged, there was still suspicions. Like, I suppose DNA testing, what came in the late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah. So it would have been...
So for 30-odd years, there's still this overhanging thing of, it could have been him, you know?
Yeah.
It's terrible, isn't it? But I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, because people would always just have that little bit of uncertainty around them, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
You know. So we've got an anonymous Netherlands resident. In 1983, a man named Harry Wiley claimed his friend who had moved to the Netherlands was Bible John. This lead was investigated but went nowhere. There was the Hannah Martin rapist. A woman named Hannah Martin claimed she had been raped by Bible John and had given birth to his child. She described an aggressive encounter with a man after leaving the Barrowland. However, this lead did not conclusively link to the murders.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really fit with it either, this aggression thing, because from what I suppose the only real sort of thing to go on is the last murder. Was it the two sisters in the taxi?
Yes, yeah.
So the only real thing to go on is who he actually was that. And I get the impression from that he wasn't being aggressive. He was just he was being weird.
Yeah, apparently he was very charming, but he was very preachy about the Bible, and
that's it. So this sort of like, this guy was being aggressive to this woman. I mean, that doesn't really fit with the description of this man. No. It does ultimately, but what I mean is to get to lure them sort of into that position, into the sort of position to be murdered.
Yeah, he's only aggressive at the point he's murdering them.
Yeah. Initially, it's charming and hey,
So John Irvin McInnes. In 1996, the body of John Irvin McInnes was exhumed for DNA testing. McInnes had committed suicide in 1980 and was related to a police officer. The DNA results were inconclusive and McInnes was cleared of involvement in the murders. Now, the last one's really interesting. I'll tell you why once I've read it. Peter Tobin.
I've heard of this, yeah.
Convicted serial killer Peter Tobin has been widely speculated to be Bible John. Tobin, convicted of multiple murders, had connections to Glasgow and the Barrowland Ballroom. He exhibited similar violent behaviour and strong religious views. However, despite the circumstantial evidence and similarities, no forensic link has been established. Now, Peter Tobin, and I've heard this from a couple of different sources. Apparently, he had one of his teeth removed. One that would be an overlapping tooth, possibly.
Yeah.
So the tooth that they say was his overlapping tooth, Peter Tobin was missing. There was also people talking about Peter Tobin that had been in relationships with him, said he got very, very angry and punished them for being on their periods.
Okay. So, yeah. I've heard about this, and I think this is a very strong link, to be honest.
Yeah.
from what I've read.
And again, with him being very religious, he was the right age for the sort of age description of Bible John.
Connections with the city, and like you say, the nightclub, and so
that's it.
It's very all right, circumstantial, but
Mm-hmm.
the links are definitely there.
And the other one was the Peter. I've already said that. The other one was that very, very religious people back in sort of times way, way back. There's certain aspects of religion that actually see a woman menstruating as like this disgusting thing, and there's some religions nowadays still where the woman's not allowed to leave the house or leave the bedroom because it's almost like something she shouldn't be doing. It's a disgusting thing.
Yeah.
And I heard a theory that Bible John could actually have sexually assaulted a lot more women, but these three, he got so angry that when he went to sexually assault them, that they were menstruating, and he took it out on them and beat them and killed them.
And that was the reason for the murder.
The other ones that were sexually assaulted and got away from him, that weren't murdered, might not have come forward because they were ashamed of where they were and where they met him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a theory.
And that's where the three with them menstruating comes into it, because they're the three that he took to sexually assault, saw what was going on, and took it out on them.
Yeah. You could do a whole other podcast on Pt.3 off the back of this. Because I think that's a very strong link. How come there was no, well, you might not know, there's no sort of DNA evidence link? Did they ever try? Did he refuse to give samples, or? I
don't know.
Because I think he's dead now, I think, isn't he?
He's dead, yeah. I'd need to look into that further.
Yeah. It's just because they did have, I don't know, they must have DNA evidence from Bible John because of the nature of the assaults.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously they did do DNA evidence on that guy that you first spoke of that got cleared and stuff. There's an opportunity to do that. So I just wonder why it was never done, or if it was done, what happened with Pt.3.
Yeah, I mean, it just, in the bit I read, it just said that no forensic link had been established, but
could be any reason, couldn't it? He just refused.
Depends on the quality of the DNA sample they've got from the 60s.
But it must be adequate, though, if they can clear that other guy.
True, yeah.
They must.
But he was kind of almost cleared anyway. The police had freed him and said, "We don't think it's you," and then he took himself forward for DNA.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and if it's wildly out,
yeah.
I'm not an expert. I don't know how DNA testing works, but I guess it's like
not even close. Then they say,
yeah. There's like a sliding scale. Like, oh yeah, it's definitely not. It could be. It definitely is, type thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm guessing. I don't know.
But that is the story of Bible John in a nutshell. And I'll tell you now, one of the reasons I wanted to do it is my grandmother had a real strong belief that my father was Bible John.
I don't think you can put this in.
Because he met my mother, and within 2 weeks they got married, and he whisked her away, and my grandmother cried that night, saying, "I think he's Bible John, he's taking my daughter away."
Where did they meet? The Barrowlands?
The fruit market, actually.
Right,
just right next to the Barrowlands.
Next to it, yeah.
Yeah, the fruit market's just by the Barrowlands. But obviously that was just a family joke. But
yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was the story of Bible John, and I wanted to do. There's some. Do you say great British serial killers? there's some famous British serial killers. Yeah. Obviously, the Myra Hindley, and
there's a load. I mean, you can say great British serial killers because that's just the name of the place, isn't it? Great Britain.
Yeah,
you're not saying like great British serial killers. It's just great British.
Who was Myra Hindley's mate that she did it with? I always forget him. He's from Glasgow.
Oh yeah,
Ian Brady.
Brady, that's it.
Interestingly, he was from Glasgow, wasn't he?
Oh right, yes, but he was a bit too. It was before his time. He was in prison by the time this was going on, though, wasn't
he? No, were Hindley and Brady before the 60s?
No, they were mid 60s.
Were they? Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then this was late 60s, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that had already happened.
completely different style anyway. It was
Yeah.
I don't think you'd link the two.
Oh, definitely not. No, the Peter Tobin is definitely the strongest link in my opinion, from what I've heard and read.
I kind of hope it was him, because that means at least he served some justice, because he was in jail in the end for the other murders. So
Yeah,
I'd hate to think that the real Bible John just got away with it and lived his life. And
he had something wrong with it. He definitely had something wrong with him. So there must have been. A decent life.
Religion's a weird thing, though. If that was a religious thing, I mean, maybe he just despised this Barrowland ballroom where these married people were going to cheat, and he just wanted to go and just take it out on them, because it was so religious, and hated this. What is it they call it? Infidelity.
Hey, jinx.
And and he just wanted to go and take it out on some of them, and that's what he did. But sick guy.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Well, thank you for your efforts this week, Fraser. And that's been Bible John. And we're back next week, and that's the end of season 2, I believe, next week, isn't it?
It's the last one. Holidays.
The holidays. We all need a break. Well, I mean, even though I've just had a week off, but I need another break. Another break. So I can't remember what I'm doing now, but I'll come back to you.
I know what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you better be.
Glad somebody does. Anything else?
No, that's it. Just like and share, as we keep saying. Also download. Tell people about us. And if you get a chance, if you got £1 to spare, just please go on Just Giving, the most dangerous podcast. I think it's easier to find with my name, Fraser Smiley. It's on all the.
Just have a look. Throw a quid in. It's for a good cause.
Yeah.
Thanks ever so much for listening, and join us next week on the Most Dangerous Podcast.
Good Thanks. That's been Bible John. Good night, James. Cheers.
I'm not Bible John. No. It's not been Bible John. It's been about Bible John.
Yes, it's been about Bible John.
Night.
Take care. Bye-bye. As with previous victims, Helen was menstruating, and her sanitary towel had been. Oh, God. I can't read this out, seriously. As with the previous victims, Helen was menstruating, and her sanitary towel. Oh, what is wrong with me?
This is going to be awful as well. It's not going to be nice. It's not going to be like, you drew a Mickey Mouse or something on the wall.